Hello High Levelers, Ray O'Daniel here, and in this video what I'm going to show you is how to build a complete brand new from scratch out of the box cold email outreach system using the GoHighlevel platform. Now, before we get started, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please click the subscribe button. I always appreciate your support. And let's move forward with this particular video here. What we're going to do is break this up into two different sections. The first thing is I'm going to give you some information. Best way to do that is just do a simple slide presentation, which I'm going to do here shortly. But I'm going to give you some information. Please take some notes, have a pen and paper ready because you will need to get down some of this information. And then once we get through the information part of it about what you need to do, some services that you might need to purchase, and things that you might need to do to get this set up, then we're going to hop into a HighLevel Sub Account and then start showing you how to do all of this stuff inside of HighLevel. Now, the good news is when I hop inside of HighLevel, I've actually built a snapshot for people that I'm going to be giving away for free. So it will have everything inside of the GoHighlevel platform and at least give you a very good foundation to begin building a cold email outreach system. So let's get started. So here are the components that we're going to need to do and get set up in order to move forward. Sometimes before we set up GoHighlevel, but these are all the things that you're going to need to know. Number one, you're going to need a new domain. You're going to need to build another sub account, email accounts. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go through and step by step go through each one of these with you and explain why you need to do these things and give you some further direction. So new email domain. Why do you need to get a new email domain? Number one, you never ever want to use your primary business domain to do cold email outreach. This is for one specific reason. If this domain, for whatever reason, gets blacklisted, then you're going to have a very hard time sending out emails. You can send them, but it's going to always go to spam. Because if your primary domain gets blacklisted, which sometimes it does happen whenever you do cold email outreach, if you send too many emails or you get too many spam reports, you could get flagged. Well, if you set it up this way, the good news is you can just simply delete this domain, go buy another domain, and start the process over again. So do not use your primary domain. Buy a secondary domain that closely matches your existing business domain. Now, I'm going to give you an example here. Example is, let's just say your business is digiglobalagency.com. So that is your primary business domain. That's what you do business with. Your personal email accounts and so forth are on this domain. What you want to do is make it sound something similar like digiglobalmedia.com or digiglobalgroup.com, something like that. But I mean, you can even use different instead of .com. You can use .something. Doesn't always have to be .. You could do .net kind of thing, but just get a domain that's very similar to your existing domain, but slightly different. And then start using that for all of your email accounts. And then the good news is if this domain ever gets blacklisted or ever gets damaged for whatever reason, you can just simply delete it, reconfigure your GoHighlevel account to use a completely different domain, and boom, you're back in business again. So let's move on. Next thing we need to look at here is the new GoHighlevel Sub Account. Why would you need to create a new sub account? Well, the primary reason for each sub account is you pretty much have a dedicated email domain associated with each sub account. Now, to send out with this new domain that you're just going to get configured, you will need to set up a new sub account inside of GoHighlevel. And this is the account that you're going to import all your contacts to. You're going to have all of your pipelines. You're going to do all of your business sort of in this sub account, and then when you're ready, you can simply copy or move a particular client over to your primary business account if that's what you want to do, and I'll show you how to do that inside of the HighLevel platform. So you will need to get a whole new sub account, create and do a few things within that sub account to make sure that your email deliverability is as high as possible, things like creating a dedicated domain. So next thing we're going to need is we're going to need multiple email accounts. You cannot set up a cold email outreach system with one email address or one email account. You are going to need multiple. Now, how many do you need? This is really just a math problem. Sorry about that. Yes, you're going to have to do some math. Now, to be realistic here, to send out emails without being flagged as spam, you need to keep your emails somewhere in the 40, maybe at most 50 emails per user per day. Now, if you want to send out so many emails per day, it just becomes a math problem. If you limit it, for this example, I'm going to say 40 emails per day. Let's just say you want to send out 400 emails per day to your clients. I mean, that's a small number, but just trying to give you some examples here. So 400 emails, and you divide that by 40, so per email per user, you're going to get 10 email accounts that you need to have configured and set up in order to send out those 400 emails every day without having this domain listed or flagged as spam. Now, you would just simply do the math. If you want to do 800 emails per day, then divide it by 40, which means you need 20 email accounts and so forth to do all of this. Yes, that is going to be quite a bit of email accounts that you need to get set up, but if you're doing cold email outreach and you're sending hundreds, sometimes even thousands of emails per day, this is what you need to do in order to get that set up. So next thing we need to do is warm these email accounts up. Now, what I want to do is most people have never heard of this before, but you can't just create a new domain, create 20 or 10 or 20 different email accounts and boom, just start blasting emails out to people. That's not going to work. You're going to go into spam, junk folder, because if you think about it, the email servers across the world don't know who you are yet. They've never seen your email address come across your list. They've never seen your domain before. So what you need to do is find a service. And one of the services I recommend is instantly.ai. It worked very well for me. But you buy their service, and what you do is you install or configure all 10 of your email accounts inside of this software. And what the software does is it sends email address from your new email address to other fake email addresses that it has within its system. And then not only does it send an email, the email actually responds back to you. And what this does is it creates an email conversation, kind of like you're doing business. And what this does is sort of warms up and lets all the email servers know that, hey, this new email address has been sending, it's legitimate business, everything is good. And if you warm these up, at least a minimum 3 to 4 weeks, probably, if you want to push it 6 to 8 weeks to really ensure good deliverability, get your accounts warmed up. And once they're warmed up, then at that particular point, you can start sending out emails and have a very high rate of inbox delivery instead of spam folder delivery. So warming up your accounts is an absolute must. Do not move forward with this unless you warm your email accounts up first. Now, how do you get a list of prospects? There's a lot of different list providers. Here's a couple on the screen. I'm going to use in this example the file that I pulled from D7 Lead Finder. I did use them for a while, and I'm just trying to show you an example a little bit later on the video. When I get into HighLevel, how do you import that list and how do you go through and do all of that stuff? And we'll get to that later. But these are the providers you can go to. There are other ones out there. Find them. You can log in if your niche is dentistry, if it's chiropractors, if it's plumbers, whatever it is. You just simply put in what your niche is, what city or state you want to pull from, and it goes out and gets all the businesses, gets all their business information, their phone number, their email address, their address, it gets their Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn profile. A lot of them will get a bunch of other information regarding them that you can store inside of HighLevel and use within your HighLevel cold email outreach system. So this is what you do. You just need to find one, pick one, buy an account with there, and start downloading things. Now, importing them into HighLevel, like I said, that is a very specific process. You have to know what you're doing, and I will walk you through that step by step a little bit later on in this video when we get there. But if you don't do this right, then you kind of are going to shoot yourself in the foot. So just watch the video a little bit later on when I go through this, and everything should be great. Now, when you're sending out hundreds and then thousands of emails per week, you have to stay organized. If you are not organized, you are going to have no idea who you sent an email to, if somebody ever replied to that email, if they didn't want to be contacted anymore, if they unsubscribed from your email list. You have to be organized. And the way you stay organized instead of HighLevel is you create pipelines, and you then create workflows to handle all of the automation that could possibly happen. Now, the great news is I've actually created a snapshot that I'm going to be giving people away for free watching this video, and you have to stay to the end, and I'm going to sit back and give you where you can get this snapshot at. But I'm going to include all the things that I'm going to go over in HighLevel, all the workflows, all the pipelines, all the scheduling, all the funnels, everything that I've got created. I'm going to give that to you to have a base system to start your cold email outreach. Now, I will tell you, this will not be a 100% complete put in place and have it done for you system. This is going to give you a framework, the components that you need, and it's your job to go in and fill these components with the logic, with the email nurture sequences, with some specifics like the user, create your user accounts. All of that stuff needs to be done by you before the system can be activated. But what I want to do is give you all the framework pieces to simply go fill out, know what's going to happen, and then it's going to make it much easier for you to implement. This system is going to take your potential implementation time from weeks down to a few days to get this stuff done. So we will go over that. Now, last but not least is the cost of the system. There are costs, and I want to make sure I share them with you. Each email account that you configure, whether you use GoDaddy, whether you use Microsoft Office 365, or some other type of service, you're going to be paying about $12 per account per month. Now, keep this in mind. This is going to be a significant cost. If you have 10 user accounts, like in this example, that is $120 per month that you're spending just on this campaign to keep this system active. Now, if you have more accounts, then obviously that'll be more. But this right here is just a simple cost of what it's going to take to put this in place. Now, the Instantly service is like $35 a month. I think last time I checked, it might be a little bit more, but you only need that for a month or two to get your email accounts warmed up. Once they're warmed up, you can stop, sort of cancel that service, and you're good to go, unless you have more accounts that you need to warm up later on. So if you start at 10 accounts, and then you want to eventually get up to 20 accounts or 50 accounts, You can always go and open up your Instantly account again, re-warm up those accounts, and then once they're warmed up, then you can stop using their services. So that is a cost. You will need to have a GoHighLevel account. Now, this right here is where I'm going to give you a plug. I am a GoHighLevel affiliate. If you sign up using my Go affiliate link in the description below, I give you not only this snapshot that I'm going to give you here, I have several other snapshots and a ton of other coaching to help you build a software as a service business on top of the whole cold email outreach system. This is just one system that you have running inside of GoHighLevel. There are a lot of other things you can do to sort of attract clients and run your business. So I do all of that, and I even provide you personal coaching. So if you haven't signed up for GoHighLevel, use my link. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. Now, minimum GoHighLevel account is going to be $97 a month, so that will at least be one factor cost-wise that you're going to have to factor in because you're going to need the GoHighLevel platform. Now, you will need a new email domain. That's not too bad. 15, 20 bucks a year or something like that is what you need to pay, but there is a cost. Now, one of the things is, depending on how many email, text messages, phone calls that you make using the GoHighLevel platform, you will need to pay for those. Those are small costs that GoHighLevel has. Besides paying for the base software every month, you have to pay for usage. So sending emails, sending text messages are not free. So there are small costs associated with them. And if you're sending out hundreds or thousands per week, then that will cost you, depending upon what HighLevel charges you at the time. But it will, again, keep in mind those, it could be somewhere between even another 100 to even, maybe $500 on the high end if you really have a high level of volume going out of email, text messages, and so forth. So that is another cost that you will have to factor in before implementing this process. Next is going to be list services. So those services like D7 Lead Finder, Apollo.io, I believe. These are going to be somewhere between $80 or $120 per month. But the good news is that if you or your assistant or your VA downloads this list from the providers and gets everything, then you can just use it for a month or two, download all of your lists that you need at one time, and then cancel the service. So anyway, this is all we need for this. And now let's hop into HighLevel and take a look at that. Okay, well, here we are inside of the GoHighLevel platform. Now, this is a sample sub account that I've used based upon the snapshot that I'm going to be giving away here. And again, stay tuned to the end of the video and I'll tell you how to get that. But this right here is what I've built that I'm actually going to be giving away. And what I'm just going to be doing is walking you through some of the basic components of a cold email outreach sub account, what you need to have configured. And we're going to be doing some importing and just a bunch of other stuff. Again, we're starting from scratch. So let's assume that you just started this sub account. You haven't done anything else to it. One of the first things that you would want to do is just simply take the snapshot that I'm giving away and then import that inside of the sub account. Then you will get all the stuff that I'm going to talk about here. But before you even do that, you don't have to do that first. But there are some things behind the scenes that you will need to get set up. And I'm not going to go through extensively how to do all of these other smaller components because I already have other videos on my YouTube channel that you can go look at for specifically how to do that. So I don't want you to sit back and show you how to do it if you've already done it. I just simply want to tell you what you need to do so you can make a note of it and then make sure that your tech person or yourself or whoever will be able to get that configured whenever the sub account is created. But you're going to create a new sub account like we already talked about. Go into settings. Now from here, obviously getting the business account information is set up. You're going to need to do all of that, but that's not really what I want to focus on. Right now, some of the things I really want to focus on is domains. Number one, you're going to want to make sure that you pull in your new domain here. So you can click on add. And this is so that whenever we start doing, I'm going to show you some funnels, but you need to sit back and connect, maybe a booking funnel or booking link to your new domain. So when you send it out, sort of the email domain matches the website domain. So you've already got it configured. All you're going to do is simply come in here. And I remember for our example, I typed in digiglobal, I think media.com. Now, I don't have this domain registered, so I can't really go through this, but HighLevel has done a great job with being able to, if you're already on like GoDaddy or Google or Cloudflare, one of those three, then this domain wizard will automatically connect to those. When it senses where the domain is located, it'll automatically connect to them, make it very easy to configure all the DNS records and get your domain set up and configured. If it's with a different provider, then you will need to sit back and be able to do this add record manually type of setup here. But if you want to do this, you want to click continue. I'm not going to do that, but setting up your domain is one of the first things that you need to do when you get this set up. And if you don't know how to do this, please check out the domain configuration on my channel and it'll show you how to do that. So the next thing you're going to need to do here is you need to set up your phone numbers. Now, this will take you a little bit of time. Not setting up the phone numbers, but configuring the A2P registration. Now, if you haven't familiar with that yet, what this is a new implementation. I believe it was July of last year July of 2023, that they created this. And right now you just simply add a phone number to this. You're going to need to add one for your either an 800 number or a local number. But once you get that number configured, which again, cost-wise, this is going to be about $1.15, I think is what they charge you per month for the phone number. So that is another cost, even though it's small. I want to make sure I'm upfront with you. Once you get that set up, then you'll have to go through HighLevel's A2P registration wizard before you can send outbound text messages. So this is unfortunately one of the steps you have to go through, and that process could take anywhere from like a day or a couple of days to even potentially a couple of weeks. So if you want to implement your email campaigns, remember I said you're going to need to warm up your email accounts. So during that same warm up email account, this is where you would get your phone system configured, your A2P registration set up and configured. All, use the HighLevel support. They can help you out with that. They have a great video on how to do A2P registration. They've really done a great job with helping people out with that, but that's where you're going to need to go in order to get this set up so that you can send outbound text messages using your campaigns. So this is one of the other things that you need to sit back and get configured. Next thing we need to do is hop into email services. Now, email services is where you are going to configure what they call your dedicated domain. Now, again, I'm not going to do that here, but I'm just going to walk through as much as I can. You're going to get this little screen that pops up, create dedicated domain. Then what it's going to do is going to ask you what domain that you want to configure. Now, the dedicated domain has to be a subdomain of your new email domain that we've already talked about. So in this case, I'm just going to use the example, digiglobalmedia.com. That's the new email address, the sort of burner, they call it, a burner domain, because if it doesn't work out, you can always burn it and get another one. So you're not using your primary domain. So on this one, we want to sit back and use some subdomain of that. So it could be, notice here that it says LC, like lead connector. You could configure lc.digiglobalmedia.com. You could set it up as email.digiglobalmedia.com. However you want to sit back and configure your subdomain, but that domain is what it will appear as all the email addresses are coming from when it gets sent out. Now, here's the thing. If you do not do this, keep in mind, if you take a look at this, this is my account. I'm going to go back to services. Notice that the default provider, if you do not provide a dedicated domain to send outbound, you will be sending emails using your agency level. If your agency has an email system configured, you will use your agency level domain, which not going to be good. So you don't want to be saying that you're DigiGlobal Media and then you're sending out on a completely different domain. That's going to just have nothing but problems in there. So what I'm trying to tell you is that you do need to include a dedicated domain, and it needs to be configured. One of the first things that you do. Now, when you do get it configured, inside here, you will see a dedicated domain. It will have a check mark next to it. It'll say you'll generate all of your SSL certificates and all the other stuff that you need, but you will need to do that in order to get the email services working to ensure the best deliverability. Okay, so that's another thing that you need. Now, we're going to talk about this more during the import, but custom fields and custom values. These are things, and I'm going to briefly touch on them. Custom fields are additional data points that you can add to each contact record to keep track of additional fields that HighLevel doesn't already have created. So if you want to create like an anniversary field for your contact and store an anniversary date, that's not a default thing inside of HighLevel. So you'll have to create a custom field and then store that custom field inside the contact record in order to keep that anniversary date information for each one of your contacts. Now, custom values are different. Custom values do not exist inside of the contact record. They exist at the system level. So one of the things I've got configured here that's already built into the snapshot is the schedule calendar link. Throughout your entire platform, your emails will have links in them for, hey, let's schedule a demo call. Hey, let's get a meeting scheduled. Hop on my calendar. Here's a link, in the email to my calendar. Well, one of the things that you're going to need to do is you want to find one place, and custom values is the place that you need to do this, where you simply edit the value. And you could do this for either one of it. We're going to edit this custom value. So notice here, I had to fill in something here, and I just put website.com/schedule. But in here, if you wanted to schedule and configure one of the funnels, which I'll show you here in a little bit, to do scheduling, I am going to give you a couple funnels that you can use or customize just to make it easier for you. But that funnel is going to have a domain associated with it. Well, that domain needs to be put in here. And then what then happens is that you can use this custom value in any one of your email links, your text message campaigns, and for instance, if this value ever changes, you don't need to go back to all those emails and text messages and change it in every single email. You just simply need to come to this custom value, change the link here, and then all the other email and template campaigns that you have will automatically change with it. That's the power of custom values. So I did configure one of them for you because I know everybody's going to need to have at least a scheduling link, because that's the whole point of what this is going to be about. Emailing, getting customers engaged, getting them to hop on a sales call, discovery call, strategy call, whatever you want to call it. But this is going to be up to you to get this configured. Again, I'm just giving you placeholders that you can use to make it easier when you do get the system set up. So those are the two areas that we're going to be looking at. And once you do that, then you're good to go as far as all the back-end stuff that you need to get finished and accomplished in order to get set up and going with HighLevel. Now, let's hop back into the account and take a look at some of the things that I've included in this snapshot, or that's going to be included. one of which is just a basic calendar. I just want to show it to you. Nothing fancy about this at all. You can create your own calendar if you want to, but this is going to be a discovery call calendar. It's just going to be a basic one, and I've set the duration for 20 minutes. Now, one of the things I will say here that you might want to customize. So inside of here, you can customize, put your own logo in here. And again, I've got a whole other video about how to set up calendaring and all the other stuff. I just want to point this out. This forms and payment, if you want to collect additional information when they schedule, meaning if the default form is just going to get first name, last name, email, phone, and notes, like a little note field. But depending upon your niche, depending upon what you want to collect during the appointment scheduling process, you may want to include some additional custom fields and ask those questions and gather that data whenever they schedule the appointment. So if that's the case, then you will need to create a custom form for that. And then once you create that form, you would simply choose that in the list here. Notice we don't have anything because there are no forms in this sub account, but you would just simply create a form to hold all the data, select that form here, and then this would be your new form that's used every time somebody schedules an appointment. So that is one thing that I want to sit back and show you. Now, also with the connections, if you do want to have this calendar connected to like a business calendar to have GoHighLevel synchronize, then this is where you would do it. And then this is pretty cool here. I just wanted to show this off. This is the new customization for the calendar. So they come up with a whole new way of customizing the calendar, the widget, to brand it. So take a look at that. I've got a whole other video on the YouTube channel for that. That is a pretty cool feature that HighLevel did release. So I'm going to go back here. So that's just the calendar because you're going to need some form of calendar to get bookings, to start scheduling appointments, and so forth. Now, next is going to be in the opportunities. I want to show you the pipelines. I've created two very simple, very basic pipelines that you may very well use. You can customize or just change them if you want to. It's completely up to you, but there's going to be two of them. One of them is going to be what I call the cold outreach pipeline. That's the one that you're going to start communicating with everybody. That's the one that's going to have probably hundreds, if not thousands, of contacts and leads in it that you're going to be continually getting to the point of all you want to do is try to reach the people. Let's take a look at this, see the different things. So here we go, lead contacted, lead replied, lead follow-up, lead scheduled appointment, or lead not interested. So you're going to get these, but this is the first pipeline that you're going to use. So anytime you're going to begin your nurture campaign or you're going to start sending this, sending emails out to people, this is the pipeline that people are going to be put into first. And the thought behind this is that this right here is going to be the busy side. So you can have a whole team of people who are dedicated to just a cold outreach, contacting people, following up, and trying to get them engaged to the point where they actually schedule the appointment here. Now, whenever they schedule the appointment, then it becomes more on the sales team or the sales process. So you might want to have your sales team, your closers, those people. This is more of like, this pipeline is more like for appointment setters. Their job is just to kind of get the appointment set. And then once it's set, then your sales team can take over. So the sales pipeline here, if we take a look at it, notice that the very first one, lead scheduled appointment. So for instance, whenever in the cold email pipeline, whenever somebody schedules it, then what we're going to do is you can have a workflow, move them from that pipeline, you take them out of that pipeline, and then move them into the sales pipeline and put them into the lead scheduled appointment. So now when they're in here, now they have an appointment scheduled, and now you can track now you can track whether they have scheduled, they canceled the appointment, they were a no-show, did they purchase, did they not purchase? You can keep track of all of that inside of the sales pipeline. And now at least these are the people that, in a sense, have raised their hand that did want an appointment. So now you can have a different follow-up system for these people in this campaign. So these are the two pipelines that I built and just kind of help you just understand just some of the basic work. Again, the cold outreach pipeline is going to be the busiest. And then out of all the people that raise their hand and start to look for sales, they're going to be moved into the sales pipeline. So, and again, this is just the opportunity view to show you where each one of these are and so forth. Now, if we hop into the marketing, we didn't really do anything, but this is where you can create all of your email campaigns. So if you want to create, your campaigns here and all of your email templates that you're going to use, this is the way I would recommend doing it because it's much easier in the workflows to add those email templates whenever you have templates already built. And it's just a much easier way of doing things rather than configuring all the emails in the workflow itself. And I'll show you how that works. But one of the things I do want to show you here are trigger links. If you're doing email outreach, trigger links are very important because you can actually track when somebody clicks on one of these. For instance, if you have an offer or if you give maybe you're doing something that's pretty cool, like you're giving a link to an outside article, it could be like a public relations to maybe it could be something that you posted for your business, like a win that you had, or you could be directing them to some information that just simply validates what you're telling them. Well, when they click on that link to go there, trigger links are a way inside of HighLevel for you to be able to track when somebody clicks that link. So right here, of course, I created one just called booking link. And what I did is added that custom value I showed you earlier. So now if you want to create that link, you can actually use this trigger link inside of your email campaigns and so forth. And then that booking link is going to use the custom value link inside of that email and text. So when somebody clicks on it, then what they can do is you can track whether or not they clicked on a link to book a scheduled appointment. And you can track that inside of the GoHighLevel platform and have a whole other workflow kick off to do something, maybe notify as a team member. But one of the things is if they click on the booking link, then you would expect them to book an appointment. Well, what happens if they click on the link, they go to the appointment page, but they don't book an appointment? Well, that's an example of what you can configure a workflow for to let you know about those kinds of things and notify your team, so that, let's just say if somebody clicks on the link and then they don't book an appointment within the next 10 minutes, that they notify a team member and the team member can reach out to them directly by phone saying, hey, I saw you were looking to schedule an appointment, but you didn't actually book one. Is there a problem? Are you having a problem with it? Or can we answer any questions for you? So this is just a way to ensure that person actually books a call. But you don't know that person actually clicked on that link unless you create a trigger link, and I've already created one here for you to use. So next thing we're going to do is come into our sites. I'm skipping over the automation because that's going to be the bulk of this kind of thing, is dealing with the automations and the workflows that I'm going to give you. But I did want to show you some of the funnels that I have. So the discovery call funnel, and again, these are not fantastic, okay, guys? I mean, these are basic. I like to keep things basic myself, but all you're trying to do is, I think this one we created for like HVAC companies, but you just want to have something that's going to attract their attention. HVAC companies get consistent stream of new customers, not leads, every single month on autopilot. Without wasting money on ineffective ads, blah, blah, blah. You can create your own headline, sub-headline. But basically all this is doing is just using your discovery call. These funnels are already already connected to the discovery call calendar. So you can use that calendar right off the bat. These are, as soon as you install them, they're ready to go live. All you have to do is make the connections inside of the calendar settings, which I showed you earlier, and then all of this is going to be good to go. But you do this, and then once you actually book this, it'll just send you to a thank you page and so forth. And then that right there is at least something that you can use as a framework to start doing your booking calls. And this is another one. This is just another example. I won't even bother looking at it, but they're simple. If you take a look, simple 2 steps: schedule a calendar, thank you page. That's it. Now, there's nothing else in there. If you want to include upsells or downsells, or I don't know what you want to do, just simply customize these, add another step inside of the funnel, do whatever it is that you want to do. But again, funnels, upsells, things like that, if you're interested in doing any of that, I have other videos on my YouTube channel that covers all of that as well. So now let's hop into automation. So inside of automations, this is where sort of the bulk of the automation, the logic, comes into play. So your workflows are what happens, what automates and does everything for you inside of the HighLevel system. So I've organized these into a series of folders. Now I'm going to be bouncing around here a little bit, but what I want to do is kind of start with basic stuff that I'm going to give you, and then kind of lead into more specific stuff inside of here. So what I mean by basic is contact management. Now, this right here is basic functions like email. What if you get a bad email address? How do you handle that? What if a contact unsubscribes from your email? How do you handle that? What do you want to do when somebody unsubscribes? So all of these things that you see here, they're pretty self-explanatory. If you get a bad phone number. Now, the purpose of these workflows are really to fix the problem automatically without having to get you involved. So for instance, if we take a look at this bad email address, maybe it bounced, we'll take a look at this. So it comes through, and just look at this. This is just a simple trigger. This is already configured for you, but it adds a note to the contact record saying bad email address, just to keep track of it, for audit purposes. You're going to come and there's a bad email tag that you're going to tag that person with, so at least you know that that email address is bad. Get new email address from contact. This is pretty cool. So what it's going to do, it's going to use a text message to go and actually send a message to the person saying, hey, John, I hope you're having a great day. This is whatever your company name is. We tried to send you an email to this email address we have on file, but it was returned as not being a valid email address. Is this still a valid email address for you? Please reply either yes or no. Now, why do we do that? So we do that because what we want is we want the reply that comes back to be in a format that we know about. We want it to be a yes or a no. That way, whenever we set up our logic on our if statement, we can reply whether or not they said yes, or we can check whether or not they said no. So either way, if they replied, then we can take them on a different channel. And the great news about this is if they do reply like no, then what we can do is just, no, that's not a valid email address. And you can simply text them back saying, please give me your, a valid email address. Then you could take that email address and then add that new email address to their contact record and update it. So that's a great example of what you can do using these workflows. Now, the two things that I want to be clear in this that you should be paying attention to probably more than some of the others is this email contact unsubscribe and SMS unsubscribe. Now, if you're going to be sending out emails in a cold email outreach system, what do you do when somebody unsubscribes? That's going to be a great question that you ask. If they unsubscribe, then do you stop contacting them? Or are these people that if they don't want your emails, do you simply put them on a cold call list, for example? So again, this could be an email. When somebody unsubscribes, you can make a note or create a task for your team that creates and updates their task list to give them a call. All this logic is completely up to you, but I would pay attention to these two right here a little bit more, because if you're doing an outreach, you want to make sure, how do you handle people that says, please don't contact me anymore? Okay, just because they unsubscribe from your email doesn't mean that they unsubscribe from a text message. Now, one of the things about this is I already kind of covered or talked about the A2P registration with the phone system. I am not an attorney, please get legal advice for this, but A2P registration is really more from a business to consumer type of communication, not a business to business type of thing. So if they have a business, then you should be able to text them just fine and communicate with them, because it's a business number. And if you're doing a B2B communication, business to business, then you should be allowed to do that. Now, if you're doing business to consumer, then that's a little bit different, and that's why you need the A2P registration and go through that entire process. So anyway, these are a great bunch of workflows, and the great thing about this is you can, again, have these workflows. You can give these workflows to your customers to have them update and keep their CRM systems updated as well if you want to, but I'm giving them all to you inside of the snapshot. So here we're going to go back to this. What we're going to do next is hop into the lead nurture area. Here you see three main workflows that I've got created. One of them is going to be lead nurture. This is going to be your main nurture campaign. One of them is going to be lead email open. So, when somebody clicks and emails, it opens up an email. I'm going to show you some cool thing that you can do, and then the lead reply. What happens when you send stuff out and they reply back, and the reply could come back in the form of an email. It could be a text message. It could be a phone call, because inside of your emails, you're probably going to have, hey, send me an email, or you can text me at this number, something like that. But they can communicate with you in multiple different ways. What happens when they do raise their hand and they do want to communicate with you? Then what do you do? How do you handle it? So right now we'll take a look at lead nurture. This is just a basic one that you have. Now, this assign a user function, I just want to make sure that you understand all of the email accounts that you have configured. You need to go into your settings and your My Staff area, and you need to add a user account for each one of the email addresses that you configure, because each one of those email addresses needs to represent a staff member, even if it's not a physical person. Because inside of this example, you're going to add all of those 10 user accounts into this step of the workflow, because what's going to happen when you add 10 users in this, HighLevel is going to do what they call a round robin approach. So the first email is sent is going to be assigned to the first user. Second email is contact is going to be assigned to the second user. Third to the third, fourth to the fourth. When it gets to the 10th, on the 11th one, then it goes back to user number 1 again, for example. So that's kind of like how a round robin approach, and you have to configure this section of your workflow on your main lead nurture campaign in order for that to work properly. That way, when you're sending out 400 emails, you get 40 emails assigned to each particular user. Hopefully that made sense. So here we've got, add lead to contact stage. So if you want to, this is where they add into the cold outreach pipeline for this one. Now, again, you could wait a day, send out your email, wait a day, send a second email, wait 3 days, third email, wait a day, fourth one. I just kind of created these to have placeholders for you to do things with here. But this is how you would build your email, your text nurture campaign. Depending on how often you want to hit them up, maybe you want to email them a couple times a day for the first couple of days. I don't know. It's completely up to you. But this is where you would build out all of your emails, and all of those email templates that I showed you. You can just simply click on here and select the template that you want to use with each one of these. But this is the main lead nurture. Notice that it does not have a trigger. That is because you're going to be manually assigning people inside of the CRM system into this particular workflow. So you're going to pick, if you're going to do 400 people a day, you're going to select 400 people from your list and say, click add to campaign, lead nurture, go. Now, you're probably going to want to use the drip mode on that one, so it doesn't blast out 400 emails all at one time. Maybe you want to do 50 emails, and then, 50 emails every half hour or hour after that to kind of spread the emails out, so you just don't shoot 400 emails out all at one time. That's going to be completely up to you, but this is your main lead nurture workflow. Now, again, I wanted to show you this. It's pretty easy, but you just have, if they open up the email, then all it's going to do is tag them with an email opened tag. Now, I like using tags for a lot of things because it makes it very handy when you come into the CRM. Notice I've even created a little smart list here for leads email open. So all this is a filter that comes over here and just says, hey, if you're tagged with email opened, then I want to show up in this smart list. Now, wouldn't this be great if your sales team could simply go through and look at the smart list of everybody that opened up emails and see all of those people? That would be a great way to prioritize somebody that actually opened up your email. Because if somebody opened up the email, then they've at least read it and looked through it, which means it could be much more potential when you call them. It's not so much of a cold call as it was, hey, I sent you an email and it looks like you followed up on it. I'd like to see if we can schedule an appointment with you. So at least they're familiar with you, and you know they at least opened up and looked at the email. Now you could do this again for create a smart list for people that call you, for people that text you. As a matter of fact, that's a great intro into the next workflow that I have for you here, and that's a lead replied workflow. So here we've got, if we take a look here at the top, call replied SMS, or email. So either way they want to do this, either way they want to reply, you can simply track. If you come down here, this if condition just simply says if they called, then follow this list here. If they text you, then follow this logic. If they email, follow this logic. So you see, it's pretty straightforward. So if they call back, then for instance, this update workflow could be, hey, take them in the cold outreach and move them into the lead replied stage. And that way, because they've raised their hand now, they've called you back. So now you're going to go from lead contacted to lead replied. Now that's another way for your sales team to know that somebody raised their hand, because now in the pipeline, they've moved to a different stage. They've moved to lead replied, and if they look at that person, they could tell in the conversations area of that contact record, have they text you, emailed you, or called you back? If they did call you back, they leave you a voicemail. You can listen to the voicemail inside of the conversations area. All of that stuff is available for you. But this lead replied workflow is very important because it lets you know who raised their hand, and then of course you can tag people, call back, email back, text back, something like that. And then inside of your contacts area, you can again create smart lists where you can break all of those people out and find people quickly and easily for your sales team to follow up. So hopefully you found that informative. Next, what we're going to do is simply come into the pipeline management area. So here we're going to have several workflows regarding what happens when somebody goes and gets put in one stage. What do you want to have happen? For instance, when you send out the campaign and you move them initially from that nurture campaign into the lead contacted. So now they're in the first stage. You can have a workflow that does something while they're in this stage. It could be create a task for your team member. It could be, notify your team. It could be whatever you want it to be. But if you do have logic that happens when somebody gets into the first lead contacted stage, then this is where you would fill out this workflow to determine what's going to happen, because these workflows are already configured. Now, here's the one where it says lead replied. Well, if they replied, then what do you want to do? Okay, the lead replied folder is when somebody actually replies with email and so forth. Lead replied here is the pipeline stage. So when they move into the pipeline stage, then what do you want to have happen here? Like, do you want to have a logic build up to notify your team members, or to keep, I don't know what you want to do here. So this is where you would have to fill in the logic of what's going to happen at that particular stage of the workflow. And again, if you just continue to follow it, I built them out for each particular stage here. Now, this stage right here is obviously if you want to do something like this. If it's lead scheduled, then this is where you want to come in here and actually move the person into the, if you wanted to do that, move the person from this workflow into the other workflow. And then this is where you would do that at. So also there's going to be ones for stale lead follow-up. So what happens if somebody's in the stage 1, so lead contacted stage, and they stay there? Like what's going to happen? I'm just going to show you here. This is just something I built. So here, lead, stale lead. So it's in the pipeline, cold email outreach. Let me scroll this up. So let's just say duration's 2 days. So they've been in there for 2 days and they haven't changed their status. They haven't changed the stage. Then, and they're in the lead contacted stage. Then what do you want to have done? So this right here, for instance, sends an internal notification. This lead has been in stage 1 for 2 days. So this is where you can get that configured. Or if you don't want to do that, you can come in here and just say contact. And I always kind of put company name, because company name is what you would have. You can say company name has been in stage 1 for 2 days. And that will give you some more specific information. So those are the kinds of things that you can do with the stale lead follow-up. And all of these workflows in here really focus on the cold outreach pipeline. So all of these are going to be just dealing with that particular pipeline. Now, because we said that, there are also going to be sales pipelines. So if you get moved, they actually schedule an appointment, now they get moved from the cold outreach pipeline into the sales pipeline, because now you're getting serious. Somebody scheduled an appointment and now you're looking to close the person. If you don't close them, then you want to follow up with them and so forth. So here's all the workflows, depending on when they get moved into whatever stage, what happens after that. You can turn these on or leave them off. It's completely up to you. But what I want to do is at least give you these frameworks so that when somebody gets moved into this stage, then whatever logic you have can happen. You just have to pick the correct workflow, turn it on, put the logic in there, and you're good to go. And again, you also have stale lead follow-up in here as well. So last thing I want to do is simply cover lead management. This is one I threw in here for you because this is not directly related to cold email outreach that we deal with. But if you're doing things like, you can use the same sub account maybe to reach out on social media. Maybe you want to have all these leads here configured. So again, if you keep in mind, you could be doing different things in social media. You could have people text you, they could be calling you back. How do you want to handle any of these other mechanisms, these channels that HighLevel has to communicate with? I just gave these to you so that you would have some. But what happens if somebody comes in through the chat widget or somebody comes in through Facebook Messenger? How do you handle that, and what's the logic involved with that to turn that lead into getting like their contact information? So if they come in through Facebook, the only thing you have is their first name and last name, but you can ask them for their email address, you can ask them for their phone number, you can update their contact record, and then when you have it, then you might be able to put them into the nurture campaign that you have. So I did want to give you that just as some additional workflows and logic for you to be able to at least have a framework to get started. So that is the bulk of the workflows. That is just what we're talking about so far. Now, after that, we take a look at the funnels that we have. Now let's kind of hop into the contacts area. Last but not least is dealing with the import process. On the toolbar here, if you take a look, you will see a little button here that says import contacts. We're going to click on that. Comes up with the import screen. We're going to click upload a file. We're going to choose our company file, our CSV file. We're going to click next. Now, I'm going to go through this a little bit extensively because this is very important, but I've also gone, if you're not familiar with the CRM, I have a whole other video dealing with the CRM and a bunch of other stuff, smart list features and all the other stuff I talked about on my YouTube channel. Please go check it out. I don't want to focus on that here. But when you're dealing with this, one of the things I want to show you is these matched areas. If you notice here, these little green circles right here, this indicates that HighLevel is able to match this column in the CSV file to a contact field inside of the HighLevel system. So name, there's a name field. Phone, there's a phone field. Email, there's an email field. But notice that this is an email host. Now, I got this list from D7 Lead Finder. Now, real quick, I'm just going to show you. These are all the fields that you get from D7 Lead Finder that you have. So notice a lot of these, when they're this red triangle, all this means is that HighLevel doesn't know where to store that information in the contact record. That's all it means. So this email host, Outlook.com, you may not want to store that. Like, you may not care if they're using Outlook for their email, for example, but you may be interested in their category, like what category they're in. So this is an air compressor repair service. So if you do, then what you need to do in order for you to select something over here, you're going to have to stop and go back into the setting from earlier and create a custom field to hold this information. And when you create a custom field, remember I talked about anniversary field, you have to create an anniversary custom field for that. Well, again, I have a whole other video on creating custom fields and how to do it and choosing the different data types and everything else on my YouTube channel. But please check that out. But all this means is that if you want to store the information, you have to create a custom field to hold it. So now this right here, notice that this field has region in it, where if you take a look at this AL, this is most likely for Alabama. So this region really isn't a region, it's a state. So what I can do here is I can select this and come down here and just choose the state here. And now I can match, notice that this goes from red to green. Now the region, this region field gets mapped into the state. So that all works fine. The zip code, the country all comes in. But some of the other things you notice that we have in here that has an Instagram profile. Like this company has an Instagram profile. I don't see a Facebook profile, but if you want to store the Instagram information, then you have to go into the custom fields and create like an Instagram profile URL, field. And then from there, you will have that in this list. If you scroll down, you will then see that down here in the bottom of this list. You will see all those custom fields that you have selected, and you can select that field to store the information in. So some of the other things like Google stars, this shows you how many stars they have, how many reviews, like what's their review count at the time. You may want to deal with that because that information, once it's in the contact record, now you can use that information to start filtering people like, hey, give me everybody whose Google review count is less than 30. And then what you can do is maybe you could target those people for like a reputation management service later. Now, I know I'm getting off the topic here a little bit from the cold email, but I just want to show you, if you store this information from these files, store all the relevant information to you because you can always reuse that information later to target other services. So notice some of these other things. It has Facebook stars, Facebook review count. Here's a cool thing, Facebook pixel. Are they using a Facebook pixel? Meaning if they're using a pixel, then most likely they're paying for Facebook ads. For that. Google Pixel. So you'll just see, you get a lot of other information here that you can store. It's going to be up to you to create custom fields for all of this, and you only have to do this once. Once you create the custom field, then it's available for you to simply store that information or not. Now, one of the things I want to do is I'm just going to leave it like this for right now, and I'm going to ignore all the other fields. So what I want to do is, I know you can't see it, but I'm going to come here and say, don't import data in unmatched columns. So I'm telling HighLevel, all the stuff that's in red, just ignore it. I don't want to move it. I don't want to move it in. I only want to import the stuff that is in the green. So once I do that, I'm going to click next. Now it's going to create an import name. It's going to give it like a big title for all this import list. Important. You have to click on the advanced tab here, because this is going to be very important, because if you don't do this, you may very well have hundreds or even thousands of records that are not imported. Very kind of frustrating, but if you don't know this, HighLevel uses two primary fields to locate a contact record: email address and phone number. So if you have a contact record that uses the same email address, that email address is how HighLevel is going to use to find that particular contact. But in your files that you download from your list provider, you may not have a phone number and you may not have an email address. Okay? Now, if you don't have a phone number and email address, I can tell you right now, if you don't do this, those people will not be imported. Okay? So here in this existing, you need to move this into none. So you need to move it to none. Basically what that's saying is I want you to import everything, regardless if they don't have an email address or phone number. So this way you can ensure that all of your leads come in. Now, another great important thing to do here is to add tags. So if you're pulling a list in, maybe in this kind of case, I'm just going to use example. We looked at the region being AL, which is short for like Alabama state. So maybe you tag this as Alabama leads, or maybe you tag it however you want to tag it, but you can create all the tags you want that's going to be added to all of these users that you import. This is where you can do it right here. Okay, so add all your tags that you want right here. And if you wanted to, you can actually add these contacts to a workflow campaign right here. So you can click on this list and say, I want to sit back and find my lead nurture campaign and add them directly to my lead nurture campaign. Now, I'm not going to do that here, but I'm just going to simply do that. And I'm just going to simply click submit from this one. And then right now, once you submit it, it's going to process it depending on how big your list is. Let me scroll back out a bit here. Depending on how big it is, boom, these are the people that came in, these are the businesses, and now when they came in, now you can simply use them to send them on a campaign. Now what I want to do is I want to show you, when you click on this, notice that there's like 1,750 records in this particular file. I'm only going to select 20 if I wanted to, so you can go through and select as many people as you want, but I'm just going to select these. So, it looks like it's still importing people here, so that's pretty cool. So it typically takes a few minutes to import all these people in here. Let me see. Yeah, we got like 2,000, 2,100 something records, but I'm only going to select this 20. And this is where you would come here and just say add people to campaign, proceed. This is where you can simply click on the campaign or workflow. Oh, that's not going to be good here. Why are we not pulling up our campaigns or our workflows? Well, I must be still importing or something like that. But this right here is where you would add to the campaign. You would select the campaign list, choose the lead nurture for this one. But this is kind of strange. I'm not sure why this does not pull this thing up here. Of course, always happens on a demo. Why it's not bringing the workflows in. Oh, I know. Silly, silly, silly. You do not see the workflows if they're in draft mode. So I'm sorry here. Let me just simply come in here and I'm going to publish this and just click save. It says the user is missing. I don't have any users here, but so this is kind of a bust here. So sorry about that. I'm going to have to put this back in draft mode because I don't have users configured in the system. But that's the reason why you don't see the workflows in the list, because you don't see any workflows that are in draft mode. You only see them if they're published. But you would select these and you could send those emails out. And really, that is the very basic ways that you can sit back and actually build your cold email outreach system. So I know we've dealt with a lot of components in these emails from the presentation to this side, and you may very well have questions. So right now, if you do have questions, please just leave me a comment here. If you did find the information useful, give me a like. Just click the like button on this one here. It really does help me out, my channel, as I continue to grow in YouTube. It just lets YouTube know that you enjoyed the information. It was worthwhile. If you did find it, maybe you could share it. That would be great. But definitely, if you have not subscribed, you see the value in these videos that I'm doing, click the subscribe button. Everything will be good. Now, if you want the snapshot, now, I know we kind of talked about here at the very end for the snapshot. If you do want the snapshot, I am offering the snapshot for free for all the people that signed up using GoHighlevel for my link. Just look in the description below and you'll find the link for the snapshot, and then you can get it there. Again, the snapshot really just has a bunch of placeholders and information that can just help you get started and reduce. Again, I built these systems from scratch. These sometimes can take weeks. With this system, at least having all these components, it can reduce that time to potentially days, even if not hours, of getting an email outreach system set up. The biggest time factors that you're going to get when you're setting this up here are going to be, number one, you're going to need to get your A2P registration for your phone number set up, getting your dedicated email address domain set up, and then getting your email accounts warmed up. So that's what's going to really take the most time in this cold email outreach system. Not so much getting the actual system and the logic and everything else, but while those are warming up and while you're getting all the other registrations, you can start practicing importing, getting stuff imported, moving them into different pipeline stages, and then testing some of your workflows before they actually go live. So that's something that you can definitely do. Guys, guys and gals, high levelers, I hope you appreciate this. If you do, just tell people about my channel. I always appreciate it. And if you are looking to sign up for HighLevel, just use my affiliate link in the description below. Thank you so much and have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're looking to learn more about the GoHighlevel system, platform, and maybe you even want to start your own software as a service company, click on the description below. I offer a free course, and this course goes over all the things you would need to know regarding HighLevel. I even teach you 8 ways that you can make money with a HighLevel system with no experience, no tech skills, and no money out of pocket. Check out my link in the description below, and have a great day.